unprecedented third show for the day. I've been saving up over the weekend. All right. D. McClung here. Artra Monologues, where I talk and you listen, or not. Free country. Yeah, not really. Third segment for September 12th, 2016. So far today, talked a little bit, maybe ranted a little bit about 9/11. I don't have to present to you all of the questions, all of the unanswered inquiries, all of the befuddlement surrounding 9/11. The internet is full of such information. You can Google it all, look at it all, read it all, express your views on 9/11 and the criminals involved. You know, George Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld. Yeah, it's there. Google it, look it up on your own time, whatever floats your boat. So this segment is not going to be about 9/11. I think I've devoted enough time today for that subject. So I haven't talked enough about dress codes. All right, it's a pet peeve of mine. It's a personal campaign. Dress codes are simply not allowed in a free society. It contradicts the very concept of a free society. That if you are living in an alleged free society, such as America is supposed to be, in theory, not so much in practical application, but in theory, according to the law, and in this case the Constitution, that governs the government, that tells the government what it can do and cannot do, what it must do and what it must not do. And one of the things that the Constitution is clear on, and I want to point out that when I speak of the Constitution, I speak of that law that applies to the government, not to Americans as individuals or as collectively as Americans. You don't have constitutional rights, and it gives me the dry heaves when people talk about, oh, I have constitutional rights, and no, you don't. That's a misstatement, and people really should not use those words. The word rights in itself is a misnomer to some degree. When I talk about rights, in the sense of I have natural, unalienable human rights, what we actually mean by that is, and I'll interject here, that words mean what they mean, regardless of the matrix and the mind benders of the collective in America trying to turn English into babble, and pretty successful at it so far. Most Americans buy into that babble. They can't read it, they can't write it, they can't understand it, even though it's their native tongue. Turned English into babble. The mind benders of the Neocon Socialist Alliance, the collective agenda. So let's talk about the freedom to do as you please. And the principle is clear, and it's been around for a long time. The principle is simple, and it's not difficult to understand if you're anyone over the age of 4. You have the natural, inalienable human rights to do as you please. And as always, we have to add the disclaimer, as long as you don't violate the rights of another human being. I might add here that the government is not included in that equation. The right to do as you please without violating someone else's rights, without infringing upon another human being's inalienable rights, is a principle that's been ingrained into the very fiber and fabric of this country for a long time. And I rather imagine the colonials, before the establishment of the corporate government of the United States, long before, I imagine, the ratification of the Constitution that governs the government and not the people. I am fairly certain that even people back in 1500s in America, 1600s, 1700s, believed quite honestly that freedom meant freedom, and the right to do what you wanted to do with your life was well founded and generally believed by everyone. Most people, except for the tyrants and bullies and busybodies and fools. So the Constitution says that the government cannot make laws that violate human rights. Those human rights are not particularly all-inclusively listed in the Constitution. We have free speech, we have right to practice religious beliefs or any other beliefs we choose. We have the right to petition the government for redressing grievances, but the courts have already ruled on that last part. We have the right to petition the government for redress of grievances, but we don't have a right to get an answer, or to get justice, or to get those grievances addressed and corrected. Court ruled this, so it's the way it is. You don't have the right to expect the government to fix what they're doing wrong, or fix what they've broken. Well, we do have the right, as all citizens, all human beings, have the right to expect that bad guys be punished and evil, criminally insane politicians stop doing criminally insane things. Just because the Constitution says it doesn't mean the government's going to obey it. And that really doesn't have anything to do with us, because we're not bound by a Constitution to not make laws, since we are not the body that makes laws. We're not the legislatures. We're not the legislation. We're not the legislature, and we're not Congress. We're not in a position to make laws. So the right to petition the government for redress of grievances is pretty much meaningless in today's America. The concept of petitioning the government for a redress of grievances is apparently beyond the scope of imagining or comprehension of most Americans. They don't understand what those words mean. And how could we say those words differently? How could we express the idea differently? The people have the right and the duty to hold the government accountable for its crimes and stop them from committing those crimes. One of those crimes is making laws that are illegal or anti-freedom or contradictory to the principles of freedom. The principles of freedom have been well established. When we use the phrase freedom, the words mean what they mean, then it means freedom. You don't need another word. But in regards to petitioning the government, that means I have the right, by law, the Constitution being a law, that binds the government to obey it, and if the government disobeys it, then it has committed a crime. The crime is violating the Constitution or violating the practice of the Constitution. For example, I have the right to petition the government, but without the obligation of the government to answer my petition, to address my grievance and correct the grievance, the harm committed by the government on us as an individual or as Americans collectively, then it is pointless. It has no value. It has no power. It has no significance. If the government simply ignores our right to tell it to stop being criminals and disobeying the law and acting treasonously, then it's a pointless and worthless law as applied to the government. We have the expectation here in that phrase. We have the expectation of the government listening to our petition, our complaint, and our demands for justice, for restitution, for accountability in our government officials as a body or as individuals. And for example, I have a grievance, and every American should, in principle and in theory, in practical application of theory, have the right to say to the government, you are imposing dress codes on us and you're not allowed to do that because that violates our freedom. I'll use the word freedom instead of rights because I believe freedom is the proper word. Rights is limited somehow to the system. So the word rights belongs to government system as opposed to freedom, which applies to everyone, government or no government. You have freedom if in fact you have it because you were born with it, with the entitlement of being free. So when the government violates that right, it violates its laws, its own laws, which tells it it cannot do so. It also is a violation of our natural, unalienable human rights or freedom. For example, there are people that say, God-given rights. If you're a believer in God and believe there is a God and that God grants us powers, then that's fine. That's your decision. If you wish to, if you believe that, even though it's delusional, it's illogical, it's contrary to reason. However, if you choose to do so, fine. You have that right in regards to the government. The government cannot. tell you can't believe, say, in God, and cannot practice your religious beliefs, say, for example, Christianity. It doesn't have anything to do with me and how I treat you and how you treat me. That's a different standard. That's a double standard. Because the Constitution doesn't tell me how to treat you. It doesn't tell me that I can't do anything. Or does not tell me or limit my power as a human being to conduct my life according to my beliefs and my wishes. And as an example, if you come into my house on my property, which I own, belongs to me, I am the sovereign owner of my property, I'm the king of my property. And what I say here goes here. I don't have the right to come into your house and tell you what to do. You don't have the right to come into my house and tell me what to do. But I do have the right to tell you what to do in my house if you come into my house. And you have the option of not coming into my house if you don't like my rules. That's not to say that my rules are rational or reasonable or even just or fair or correct. But if you come into my house, I have the right to say to you, shut your mouth, don't talk. Because it's my house, my environment, my realm. So if you come into my house, I will grant you the privilege of exercising your freedom or your right to freedom of speech. If I don't like what you're saying, I can tell you to shut up, but I can kick you out of my house. That's the rule, and that's not really debatable. The question here, of course, would be, why would I do that? If you come into my house and you were calling me names and pointing your finger at me and defaming me and slandering me and just being an asshole, pretty much, and saying nasty shit like, you're an asshole, you're an idiot, you're a, let's say, you're a liar, you're a, and this person is talking to me in my own house, in my living room, or even in my studio, my shop, or my yard, and you come in. Let's just set the scene in the scenario. You come into my house, and you start calling me names like, you're an idiot, you're an asshole, you're a prick, you're a motherfucker, and you're a liar, and you're a pervert, and a creep, and all kind of nasty things. It's my house. I don't have to listen to that. I don't have to give you any privileges to say that to me. I don't have the right to kill you because you said that to me, and I certainly have the right to toss you out of my house, or tell you just simply, in all fairness to you, I tell you what, stranger, shut up. Don't be saying that in my house. Don't be calling me names in my house. You're not allowed. I won't permit it. I won't tolerate it. And if you keep doing it, I'm going to kick your ass out of here. In which case you would have to go. Because if you don't go willingly and voluntarily, I will drag you out by your fucking throat. I have the right to do that, and to my knowledge, there is no valid law that says I can't, and there is no valid law that can be brought, charges can be brought against me in regards to doing that, because my house, it's my sovereign territory. I like to think that I'm a compassionate ruler or monarch or dictator. But if I want to be a dictator in my own home, I can do that. I can be a dictator in my own house, and if I have a spouse, a family, a wife, kids, girlfriend, my children or her children in my house, and they're living there, they share my abode, and they have human rights, which I cannot deprive them of, and to do so would be ridiculous and just not very nice. However, and we have a lot of people that misunderstand the concept, the principles of being a sovereign in your own house. king of your castle, as they say, or queen of your castle, as the case may be. But if you come into my house and you're starting to be nasty, and I'm gonna beat the crap out of you. You're not gonna tell me that in my own house, in my own living room. You know, it's just not a good idea. So I will remove you from my house and my property, and as I have every justification to do so. If, on the other hand, I allow you into my house as a guest, as a privileged guest, and you're here and you ask me, can I tell you what I think of you? Can I be honest? Can I express myself with the right to? Can I just express myself freely? And I grant them the privilege of doing so, not the right, but the privilege. And you start telling me that you think I'm a pretty lousy guy, I'm a prick, and so on. And okay. Stop talking. That's enough. I heard what I get the general drift of it, and I don't like what you're saying, and it's my house, so shut up. That's just a standard principle that's been around for a very long time. I'm guessing forever. Privilege. I will revoke your privilege. If, on the other hand, you're sitting on your front porch across the street from me and you're talking and calling me bad names and stuff and shouting at me across the street, then, I could just suggest maybe I'm going to file a complaint against you for, say, libeling me, slandering me, defaming me. You might be saying threatening things. Yeah, it's your porch, your house, your property. You're right to slander me, and you also have the responsibility of accepting consequences of slandering me. I can take you to court and charge you with libeling me. If you're going to threaten my life in my own house, that'd be just stupid, because and you pull out a gun or a club and you're beating me on the head with it. I'm sorry, you just wore out your welcome, dude, and I'm going to pull out my gun and shoot you in the kneecaps. Self-defense. In my own house, come on. It boggles the mind how people in America get everything kind of ass backwards and misconstrued, and they just don't know what they're talking about most of the time. They're just babbling. At any rate, the government has to obey the law that was created for it. The Constitution is that law, and the Constitution applies to the government. So I can't make laws. I can make rules in my house, but I can't make universal laws. I can't make a law that's like a statutory law that applies to everyone in the whole country. Not in my house. I can do it. I can say it. Nobody in this country is allowed to call me an idiot. Kind of hard to enforce that. It would be impractical, and to be honest, it would be just stupid. So, the point is, the Constitution exists. It exists for a reason, and it is to govern the government. So, that faction, that First Amendment, for example, Congress shall make no law, means they shall make no law, meaning none, zero, zilch, nada. And in regards to, let's say, the people exercising their human and inalienable rights. So, I'm not a legislature, I'm not Congress. I have no power or authority over masses of people. I can control myself and my environment, and perhaps have some power over my family. I can't just kill them. I don't have to like them, though, on the other hand. So, the thing I'm trying to say here is that the Constitution tells the government what to do, what not to do, and if the government violates that, then the government is wrong. And we have the right to say so. That's one of the problems in America, is we jabber a lot. We bicker and argue amongst ourselves and point our fingers at the government. But not much gets done in regards to addressing those grievances and making them right. It's not the way it's supposed to be done in this country, but it's the way it seems to be. All right, we'll take a break. Be back in a minute.
Overheated.
Breaking news. Listen.
Part of this ongoing
Infowar.com.
In 1993, Hillary Clinton ordered Vince Foster's dead body to be moved and dumped to avoid a murder investigation. New York Times best-selling author Roger Stone names names. The Clintons' War on Women, in stores now.
Been checking out the latest on Hillary Clinton. Can't show you the video, this is radio, but you can see it on the internet. It's out there. Whatever you think of Alex Jones, go to his Facebook page. Watch the video of Hillary, leaning against a pillar, wobbling, falling down, being dragged to her van, tossed in the van, losing a shoe. And then, of course, they come out with it. Oh, she's got pneumonia. Yeah, right. You know what? I've known people with pneumonia. I've even had pneumonia myself. Double pneumonia, in fact. I was very, very young at the time. I don't remember. I'm talking like 5 months old, but I've known people who had pneumonia. And you know what? What, has she had pneumonia? Has she had pneumonia for like the past freaking year? Or 5 years? She was overheated, right? Dehydrated. Oh yeah, sure. Gotcha. Wink, wink. Not buying it, people. So anyway, let's switch away from her for a while. Going to be interesting to see how this plays out, seeing as how we saw it with our own eyes. Of course, they're trying to cover it up. She had pneumonia. She felt a little weak. That's just bullshit. All right, let's talk about Donald Trump. Equal time or fair play or whatever. Let's talk about Donald Trump. I'd give a heads up to Joe Salerno to listen to today's episodes if I had a way of doing so. Donald Trump. Joe Salerno. I like that guy. He was cool. He was amusing. Freaking redneck. Alright. So anyway, if you happen to see Joe, tell him, listen to my radio shows for today. This is number 3 segment on today's program, so give him a heads up. Time to listen to the 3 shows for today. You'll get a kick out of it. Alright, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned Joe's name on the air. Well. Joe can handle it. He's tough. Alright, I want to tell you about this. Joe. What am I looking at here? Hold on here. Here we go. 15 years, I'm quoting Donald Trump here. 15 years ago, there's no audio, I have to read it. It's text, I'm going to read it. I'm sure it's videoed somewhere, but this article I've got, so this is what I'll do. I'll read it. 15 years ago, America suffered the worst terrorist attack in its history. Maybe. Thousands of mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, and innocent American children were murdered by radical Islamic terrorists. Today we mourn for all the lives lost. We mourn for all the children who had to grow up without a mom and dad, and for all the parents who had to struggle without their children. We will never forget. Oh, excuse me. Number one, let me just get. This is me again. In quote. Sorry, I should have said in quote after without their children. All right, this is me, live. D. McClung. Arthur Monologues. All right. Here's the thing. Okay. I'll hold off. I'll say. Let me read some more of Donald Trump's fine message to the American people. In that darkest hour, the entire world bore witness to the strength and courage of our mighty nation. Firefighters, police officers, and Port Authority workers rushed to danger, into smoke, into fire to save the lives of people they have never met, performing their sacred duties until their last moments on earth. Heroes like Father, okay, blah, 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 blah. You know, ... leave out that part. It's not important. It's not what I want to talk about. These are, okay, back to quoting Donald Trump. These are the finest and bravest and toughest people that could ever grace a city. We remember the heroes of Flight 93 who saved countless more from a terrible fate. Yeah. We remember the heroes at the Pentagon who fought to save every last life from the smoldering rubble. Really, Donald? Are you really going with that? All right. Back to Donald. Today is a day of sadness and remembrance. It is also a day of resolve. Our solemn duty on behalf of all those who perished on September Day 15 years ago is to work together as one nation to keep all of our people safe from an enemy that seeks nothing less than to destroy our way of life. We pray for those who have lost the ones they love so much, and we also pray for the unity we will need to conquer all of the challenges to come. Donald Trump. End quote. All right. Okay, here's the thing. Apparently Donald is going to go with the official government lies. Bought into that fairy tale hook, line, and sinker. Not a word there about the conspiracy, the cover-up from, by the United States government. Not a word about George Bush and his terrorist insanity. Not a word about the fact that the FBI knew about this possible planes crashing into the towers and Pentagon thing. Not a word about George Bush's criminal conspiracy to... I just can't even. I'm almost speechless here. The point I'm trying to make here is this. Donald Trump is buying into the official story of the government lies about 9/11, and so he's not only a lunatic, he's a freaking fool. Oh, God. So, Hillary might get elected? Oh, God. Or it might just be she's going to continue as long as she can, if they can keep propping her up and keeping her drugged long enough to stay alive until the election day. The vice presidential person, Kane, is that his name? Might become the president instead. Maybe they planned it this way all along. At any rate, this has got to be the most bizarre election ever in this country. I mean, one hand we got a freaking lunatic, redneck asshole, and then we got on the other hand, we got this sick, demented, twisted, evil criminal, murdering, Parkinson's disease riddled Hillary cunt puke ass biscuit piece of shit. What the hell's going on, people? I mean, God. It's unbelievable. Unfucking believable. I'll have to say it's interesting. At least it's that, because a lunatic and a psychopath. Oh, we have a choice. Well, I'm not going to pick them. Either one of them, guarantee it. I'm not. I mean, let's vote for Hitler on the one hand or Stalin on the other. Or is it the other way around? Anyway, I can't go on. Wouldn't it be nice if they both just keeled over dead? And then we could just start over again. I just say cancel the whole thing. Start over from scratch. See if we can find some sane, real freedom-loving Americans to run for president. Oh, I suppose, what's his name? Gary Johnson. In a pinch, I guess he would do. I don't know a whole lot about him. He's a libertarian candidate. If it comes down to it, I guess I could go with him. I am a card-carrying libertarian. Not that I put a whole lot of weight in the card, but I do have the card. I am a card-carrying libertarian. I hope it doesn't conflict too much with my being a not card-carrying anarchist, which simply means no government bullying people, terrorizing the world, invading foreign countries and murdering those people. Sheesh. All right. I hope you're smart enough to figure this out if you're a voter. I hope you take some time to contemplate on the consequences of voting for Hillary or Donald Trump. Because once you put your X beside one of those names, history has recorded you for being either a fool or a lunatic or whatever. I can think of a lot of words to use here, but let's just say, please try to use your brain for once. Try to be logical. Try to be rational. Try to think like a human being. Try to think like a person that has a brain in their head. Psychopath, lunatic, or Gary Johnson or one of the other candidates that are not fucking insane. There are others. I'm guessing Gary Johnson is on the ticket all 50 states, from what I've heard. If for no other reason, vote for Gary Johnson just out of protest and disgust for the other two. Lunatics and psychopaths. 9/11. If you're running for president and you can't acknowledge the fact that 9/11 had something to do with the federal government, if you don't acknowledge that, at least part of it, I mean, if you still think a freaking airplane full of passengers nosedived into the earth in Pennsylvania, if you still believe that, then, you're just not capable of critical thinking. I mean, at least ask a question. Or at least ask the question, where's the plane? Where's the bodies? They didn't disintegrate into thin air. The laws of physics simply do not allow that to happen. As far as planes crashing into the Pentagon, have you seen one? I saw a video the other day of a passenger plane crashing into the Pentagon, kind of, sort of, maybe. I've been waiting for 15 years for that video, and guess what? They finally come up with one. Somebody did. Not really, because you don't really see it crashing into the Pentagon. And I slowed it down. I even went by it frame by frame, and it just doesn't line up with the laws of physics, people. Besides, Photoshop. I know Photoshop. I own Photoshop. I can put planes and crashing into buildings and crashing into the earth and everything. And gee, I mean, it's not like I can't Photoshop something. After all, they've had 15 years to do it. I want to see body parts. I want to see plane wreckage. I want to see like a tail of an airplane laying in the freaking yard in front of the Pentagon, because it didn't go into the building. And if it exploded, I'm pretty sure an explosion that when it hits the building and crunches into the building and disintegrates into thin air, part of that plane's going to be blown sky high and land, like in the next county, or at least freaking down the street somewhere. Because that's the way things explode. They go boom and things fly everywhere in a 360-degree circle, pretty much. So how come we didn't at least see the tail fin of the jet plane laying somewhere in the yard or a block away somewhere? Or an engine? Or some guts? Or somebody's fingers or heads or something? Seriously. Alright, that's the end of the third episode for today. Might be the last one for the day. Might actually come up with a fourth one, because I've been saving up for a couple days. I got a bunch of shit to say. So I've covered, let's sum up. Covered 9/11, covered Hillary, covered Trump, covered dress codes, let's see, we covered, what else? That other thing, like freedom, which we don't have. And people who are delusional think, oh, I'm free. Yeah, sure you are. I'm free to say what I want on my radio show until I'm not allowed to say it on the radio show again. Just like the videos on the internet that are being taken off of YouTube because, the government is censoring it, even though they didn't censor all of it, because, we're sneaky, we're clever. We can find a way around your censorship, you bastards. Alright, talk to you later. Got some things to do here in the studio, and we'll talk to you another time. Be cool.